Come along as I take you with me to build my dream project, a large bioactive Tegu Terrarium. This detailed European guide can be scaled up or down to accommodate any reptile species, so let your imagination run wild and enjoy the build. I certainly did. We're gonna end the series with upgrades, maintenance and repairs. Together with the Tegu, I also bought this nice big and long vine that I attached to the ceiling using the same hooks that support the Exoterra glow lights, and I just zip tied the vine to those hooks. Then I suppose started exploring it almost right away. It's time for some upgrades and some minor repairs. I suspected that small amounts of water were leaking from the basin, so I just resealed it, and a final layer of grout will follow as the last layer, so that the big nails of my Tegu don't risk puncturing it. The same pigmented cement-based hydro-insulation was used as for the background, Cheresit CM17. Okay, so the layer is applied. Just waiting for it to dry now, before I can put the water and see if the leak is fixed. I'm gonna place a cover, hopefully before the Tegu will come out of his hide, so he doesn't ruin this final layer. Shouldn't take too long to dry out since it's applied by brushing technique. It's a thin layer only for protection. Hello. I thought the leak was fixed, and for a while it was fine, but then I noticed that water levels were dropping too fast and the soil started to get wet. So for a few days I noticed that the water level was decreasing again more than it should. It seems to have stabilized at this level, so I might have a leak in the basin somewhere in the upper third. But I have to be sure, so I've taken the filter outside and let it run in a box for a while to see if the filter is not leaking. We'll see if the water levels drop somewhere on the upper levels of the waterfall, or if the problem is just here at the basin. I've ordered some epoxy resin and I plan to do another coating with it on all the features of the waterfall, just to make sure. And as you can see, the soil is saturated with water about halfway through. If you look here, it's just everything is super wet deeper down. So I really have to fix this. Well, the Tegu doesn't really care, of course. It's just curious what's happening in his little home. As soon as the epoxy resin arrived, I started to coat every single part of the waterfall, and although the damage was isolated only to the basin, I decided to also cover all the steps of the waterfall in epoxy resin just to be sure. Working with epoxy resin is fairly easy. Just buy a product and be careful of the mixture. For this particular product here, I have to mix the hardener with the epoxy resin in a proportion of 2 to 1. For this you need a scale, a kitchen scale, to accurately measure the proportions. It is very important to respect the manufacturer's recommendations regarding this, or your epoxy resin won't dry good. It can present cracks and won't be as durable in time as specified. The resin is in a liquid form, so you just need a brush to spread it out. Plastic recipient or any recipient you won't need afterwards. I just cut out a big plastic bottle for this, and a wooden spatula to mix everything thoroughly. So let's turn on the scale. We'll take the A component and just pour your desired quantity. Don't pour everything at once. Try to anticipate what kind of surface you want to cover. With this product, you've got about 30 minutes until it starts hardening, and after that you can't really apply the layers in a uniform way. Okay. So if this is 116 grams, I would need another 58 grams of hardener, which takes us to 174 grams. Precisely. Okay. Mix everything a little up. You can't really wash things afterwards. You either have to wipe them with a cloth you don't need or some paper towels, and your brush will be ruined, so you might want to buy more types of brushes and spare brushes for each layer. I don't know, you can probably get it off from the brush with acetone or stuff like that, but the brushes are really cheap. Okay, and it's important to wear some kind of protection equipment, protection goggles, and a mask, preferably a mask for painting that also filters the noxious fumes the epoxy resin gives out. So make sure you vent the room properly. Just take this mask, which did its job pretty well last time. So let's get started then. So I have applied the first layer of epoxy resin. You can clearly see where it has been applied. It's got this glossy look, and on every step of the waterfall where water is flowing, even the top one. Hopefully this will fix my leak. But as I said, the problem was localized to the main water pool and not the waterfall. But I've applied the epoxy to the whole structure just to make sure. Everything went well, the epoxy did its job. I also added some further moss to the background, some lichens, and replaced some plants. Essential for ease of access in and out of the terrarium is a ramp. I took some spare planks and connected them together using metal plates. I also found these nice fence species at Hornbach for delimiting plant beds in your garden, but I had to cook them first because they were all moldy and wet, and only after that I could use them in the build. I simply cut the pointy feet to the same level as the actual fence and started cutting the margins according to the length of my platform and the ramp itself. I also covered the planks in black spray paint. The platform itself sits on 3 black adjustable legs for furniture that are 30 centimeters high. Next, I laid down some tapes of Velcro on the ramp and on the platform itself, and ordered a piece of carpet according to the dimensions of the ramp and the platform. The chosen carpet had a soft fabric back so that the Velcro would stick on it and the Tegu wouldn't be able to rip it out from the ramp. But I would still be able to take out the carpet and wash it when needed. The carpet would also catch all the soil and dust that the Tegu would drag out from the terrarium when coming outside from his enclosure and into the room. The smart guy learned in just a few days how to use the ramp, and by now he comes out and goes back inside on his own whenever I install the ramp. Here's a bottom view of everything. As you can see, the ramp is hinged to the platform so that I can easily transport and adjust it to my terrarium's height. I also screwed on two metal L corners and placed some textile pads on the sides to avoid scratching the terrarium. And this way, the platform, the ramp, stays firmly in place and won't tip over even if the Tegu is agitated when on top of it. Since we need to provide plenty of enrichment for these smart lizards, I've also decided to adapt the balcony to his needs. I had plenty of spare wood from the terrarium, so I decided to do another small build, a water feature on the balcony when he was free roaming. This time I worked with extruded polystyrene, not expanded, and it was a far cleaner job than working with the background of the terrarium. The acquired skills from building the terrarium were also employed in building this water feature. The wood and the polystyrene were encased in hydroinsulating layers, in cement-based hydroinsulating layers, and everything was again hydroinsulated using the rubber sealant from bison. I also recycled a few pots from the plants I used in the Tegu's terrarium and encased them into my design using expanding foam. Remember to thoroughly and generously apply all the hydroinsulations everywhere, including on the bottom of the plant pots, because you don't want the water to drain between the layers. Shopping again for plants was really fun, and most of them ended up thriving in my waterfall. An Exoterra primate skull would mask the pipe where water comes out. Masked by wooden rodent bridges is the same type of external filter as in the terrarium, and I also attached the UVC sterilizer to avoid algae forming. Again, I used the volcanic rocks from JBL as decorations and substrate for the steps of the waterfall. Notice that I also installed a safety net for cats all around the balcony to prevent any escapes and injuries. For some reason, tegus love soft stuff, and now the lizard has a comfy mat with memory foam on which to bask in the sun. My Tegu Terrarium ended up being more bioactive than I imagined, and from time to time these little guys will pop out. I also spread around some lawn reseeding seeds from Wolf. This is a special fast growing type that will offer you a patch of dense grass in only 8 days.
I also installed one of these compact thermohygrometers, and I basically glued here behind Velcro. Mine do not cover up where the battery slot is and where the hygrometer probe is. And I just glued another Velcro on the back of the terrarium, and I have a nice little inconspicuous thermohygrometer that can monitor the ambient temperature and humidity, and where I can check if everything is okay. You can install multiple thermohygrometers like these, maybe one in the cool area to monitor the lowest temperature and one closer to the hot spot to see what kind of temperature gradient you obtain. It has been 6 months since I first turned on the linear UVB bulb from Exoterra. It's a T8, so I want to also improve upon that, and I acquired the biggest T5 linear bulb from Arcadia. Arcadia is really far better than Exoterra at providing the UVB light, and the T5 almost doubles the amount of UVB emitted. This is the strongest one, the 14%. Should be fine combined with the solar glow hotspot, which I will also replace with the solar raptor once it burns out. What we have to do now is get this T8 down and install our T5, which should be fairly easy. The Arcadia Pro T5 UVB kit already comes with everything you need to install your linear UVB bulb and get it up and running. Arcadia is the top brand. It has excellent UVB output, is very reliable, and this particular kit also comes with a mounting that already has a reflector. So I'll be switching to Arcadia for all my bulbs, for my turtles, for all my reptiles, because it has recently become more available in my country. Fortunately, you can't find it everywhere, but as I've seen, it started to become way more popular. So let's see what's in the box. As I said, this kit already comes with the mounting for your linear UVB light, and it has this nice reflector which also concentrates all the UVB rays downwards. In my current setup, I didn't find a proper lighting linear bulb mounting, and it doesn't have a reflector, so UVB is lost on the upper side. But with this one, everything goes downwards toward your reptile. It's sleek, it's small, It's not bulky as other mounting, but of course you can use, you don't have to buy a kit. You only need the linear bulb if you want, and if you already have your own lighting setup, you just integrate the lights with what you have. I wanted to improve upon my setup, so that's why I got the kit. Now I got the strongest linear bulb, the Dragon 14% UVB, because the distance from the ceiling to the soil and my reptile is pretty big, about 60 centimeters, 70 centimeters, so I need the strongest UVB there is. Of course, if your ceiling is not that high, you can opt for the other ones, the desert, forest, whatever suits you. Okay. Let's see how the T5 is. So T5 bulbs, linear bulbs, are really sleek and slim, as you can see. And it will fit nicely in this mounting here. So let's get it started. Let's get the old setup out and install the new one. So the kit also comes with these cables. If you want several light bulbs, you can connect them all in a series through these connectors here. They are on both ends. And you get a nice cable to connect them, so you only need one plug for several light sources. And this one of course goes to the socket. Now I have my own cables installed, so I will just cut my cable short here and connect it to my installation. Then you have these clamps. These will hold the fixture in place, and this is to plug the other end if you don't have multiple fixtures. Let's get going. First things first, we need to unplug our current fixture so you don't get electrocuted. Okay. And it's off. Now we can start to get it down. My Tegu is still sleeping. Hopefully it will remain that way until we are done here. First thing, I'm gonna remove the old T8 bulb. And now we have access to the body, and after removing the clamps, to the wire. Okay, so these are the wires here. I just have to disconnect this cable here and connect it to the other one, and also remove the screws that hold the fixture in place. Maybe cover up the holes with some hydro insulation and install the new clamps in their place. Okay, I've disconnected the cable, and this is the last screw. And it's out, ready for a new one. So the only downside to this system are the horrible clamps. If you want to mount them at a slight angle like I did, it's a real hassle and challenge to get them to grab onto the fixture. because they are really tight. So you have to remove the reflector, which is pretty easy, and then just use brute force to get them to clamp on. It was really a hassle and a challenge, but it's done, so we can get to the next step, cabling. So what I did, I ran the cable from the other end to here, cut this one here, and I'm gonna connect the two wires here. The reason I did that is because maybe I need sometime in the future a little more cable, rewire it or stuff like this, and I would like to have a longer cable rather than a short end, although I'm pretty sure that you can find anywhere these connectors which are pretty standard, and replace them if needed. So next I'm gonna use this handy tool here that allows me to easily remove the insulation from the cables and prepare them for the connectors. As before, I will use these handy little pieces here. They are fast connectors for the cables, and they have a gel inside that's an electrical conducer, and you can basically just connect the cables real fast and safe. So here is a size comparison and the differences between a T8 bulb and a T5 one. The T8 is from Exoterra. The other one is from Arcadia that we are upgrading to. You can see the T8 is much more thicker, and while they have approximately the same size, these are the longest ones you can get, the T5 has about 50% more UVB output and more intense light than the T8 one. Also, Arcadia has much more natural light than Exoterra. Exoterra has a bluish hue to the bulb. Arcadia has more natural white light. But you can see it in a second and compare to the previous setup. So here is the final setup with a nice cable mask on top so that the cables all stay in position and don't hang around randomly. Moment of truth. Let's turn the lights on, see if they turn on, and if I haven't screwed anything up. Nope. Second moment of truth. After a short debugging, I noticed that the bulb wasn't properly screwed on. So let's try again. And we have light. Nice white light. The blue hue from the Exoterra bulb is gone. Let me turn off the lights in the room to better get a hang of the color. Much more naturalistic colors. I'm really pleased with the result. And the reason again is why I wanted the fixture at an angle is because when you are sitting on a couch and watching TV, I don't really want the light from the UVB to constantly blind me in the corner of the eye. It shouldn't affect the UVB output per total in the terrarium. and everything is nice and masked. Next upgrade will be the hotspot, replacing the sun glow Exoterra when it's burning out in a few months with a solar raptor. And for that I need to install a ballast, because those bulbs are not self-ballasted as the Exoterra ones, but they should provide better, more focused heat with a lower wattage, so the electrical bill will be cheaper.
Because it's a festive time, I also wrapped around the vine a micro LED battery powered Christmas decoration with an incorporated timer. Now it's finally time to show how I do the terrarium's maintenance.
So let me show you how we change the water. I have unplugged the filter, and to get the water out of the basin I have this pump. It's a fairly cheap one, about 15 euros you can get, that you can attach to a power drill. But that's what we are going to do. This. I have attached some 12mm tubes to the pump, and everything will go out into a bucket. We're gonna refresh the water and add fresh water. Okay, just let me get the floating water plants out first. I have water hyacinth and some other floating aquatic plants. I forgot their names. Good. Now, I'll just stick the tube into the water, and be careful when you start the pump, it will spin, so you have to support it either with a hand and start slowly, or just cram it here in a nook or somewhere where it's stable. And this way I can also clean only the dirt on the bottom. If the water is still clean and there's just minimal soil on the bottom, I can just vacuum it without changing the whole water. But we're gonna do a full refresh now, since it's been some time since I did this. Just watch also the levels in a bucket, because I overflowed it. Water level is halfway down, but the bucket is full. I'm going to empty it, repeat the process, and I'll be back in a short. Now that the water is out, we also have to clean the filter. But first, let's remove the cork. And get the tube out. My filter is an Eheim Professional line. It's the smallest one because I didn't want it higher than 30 centimeters, so it could fit snugly here. And that's why I have to remove a tube before trying to remove the lid, or else it will create a vacuum and it will be impossible to remove. So I'll just get the filter out. It's a little heavy. The lid will remain in the terrarium, and the rest will come with me for cleaning. Alright. Just get your filter media out. You can see it has accumulated quite a bit of soil and dirt, but we'll get it off in a second. And give everything a good rinse before returning the canister to its original location. You can see the filter comes with some sponges and media for bacteria to grow on and start the biological filtration, but you can also add other filtering media like charcoal, for example, or Siporax, whatever you desire. Okay, the filter is cleaned. Let's return it to its place. I've got to admit, it's not the most elegant solution, and if you want and can, you can redirect your pipes for the waterfall outside of the filter, of the terrarium, and then you have your filter on the outside of the terrarium, and maybe maintenance is a lot more easier. Now we can add fresh water to the terrarium. And after it's full, we're gonna prime the filter, since these models don't have a priming button. As I said, the filter doesn't have a priming button, so you have to manually prime the filter, which basically means to get the air out so it can suck in the water. We'll do that with a very cheap manual pump. First, fill the filter up with water, put it back in place, close the out tube, attach your small pump to the out tube, now this tube is a little smaller than the entrance of the filter, so it fits a little harder. Hey. And the Tegu already wants back inside. Once you have fitted here, open the out tube, pump the air out, and soon water will start flowing. Let it flow for a while. Maybe move the filter a little to get all the air out. Once you have obtained a good flow, close and open the filter again a few times to get the rest of the air out. Then we'll close the filter, disconnect our pump, put back the main tube in, and start the filter. I'll hide back everything again with cork. And that's all. Yeah, he's anxious to get back inside. Sometimes you also have to clean the glass of your terrarium, especially the glass next to the waterfall and where the Tegu tends to lick and scratch. I found a very practical combination that quickly does the job with ProGBL Clean Terra. Basically a safe solution for animals to clean terrarium glass. It's mostly vinegar in water, and magic sponges that can clean dirt only by getting them wet, but the combination between these two can remove even the worst of stains. much better. And our Tegu can go straight back inside without any problems. It smells a little vinegary, but I don't think he minds that. I guess after a good meal, a good nap. Another trick I found with the geotextile is that it works excellent as a hide bedding. And my Tegu simply loves to cover himself up with the geotextile and pretty much works all day to rearrange it according to his likings, making a pillow out of it, making a hide. His toy was of no particular use, and he just used it to cover up his entrance. But the geotextile is ideal for a bedding since it's hardy, it won't degrade very fast, and it won't mold. Plant maintenance is fairly simple. You have to water them, of course, and also fertilize and regenerate their soil from time to time. Now, I'm using the tri-pack for indoor plants from BioBees. These are quality organic fertilizers. You can't use any other fertilizers in your terrarium, just organic ones. Sometimes part of them would drip into the water. The animal will come in contact with them inevitably, so if you don't want to kill your animal, don't use anything that is not organic. So let's add a little from each one. Okay. And I've got this nice electric pulverizer from OMAC. These are made in Romania, but they have really nice accessories for gardening and various other outdoor activities, like these electric pulverizers, which make watering the plants very simple. You can also use manual pumps, but this is effortless. Just add the organic fertilizers to the water. I'm adding them every 3 waterings. I add again some fertilizer. Depending on the stage your plants are growing, flowering, you have to add them in various proportions, about 1 to 3 milliliters per liter of water from each one. Nice. Okay. And the pump has pressurized the canister, and we are basically ready to start watering our plants. and we'll do the same in the terrarium. So it's been 4 days since the last watering, and I've prepared, as you saw, the water with some organic fertilizers, so it's time to water our plants. The pulverizer makes it really easy and fast. If you really like, you can include also watering systems, like a dripping systems for balconies, for example. There are even some solar powered from Gardena, for example, and you can install them in every plant pocket and on every root. I was afraid they might interfere with aesthetic looks, but I guess you could hide all the tubing if you want to, maybe mask it with moss. For now, I don't mind watering the plants, and it's kind of relaxing for me, like this. And with this long tube here from the pulverizer, I can get to every plant pocket effortlessly. Now, as you see, some organic fertilizer has dripped into the water, which is no problem. It's perfectly safe for the Tegu. The filter will clean up the smell, if there's any, because organic fertilizers do have a specific smell, and it's not horrible, but it smells a little. It will dissipate in a matter of hours. Our Tegu is fast asleep and doesn't really care about our activities. Now another handy gadget I have for making my life easier with the plants is this handheld pulverizer, also from OMAC, and it's also electric, so my hand won't hurt when watering the Spanish moss, for example, and pulverizing all the hanging plants. A little water on the ferns also helps them stay alive in these temperatures. Your Spanish moss probably needs pulverizing every 3 days or so, if you have similar temperatures to what I got.
We're nearing the end of the build, and I can tell you that in these 5 episodes I have compressed and summarized 2 years of work on my behalf. I also kept all of the receipts of the materials and some tools since I started the build and I wanted to see what the final cost was. I've ended up investing 3,283, give or take, euros into the terrarium. If you add the cost of buying the animal, another 1,500 euros, because I bought a 3-year-old adult, an Annery Tegu, which is expensive, you get to a total cost of 4,783 euros. So owning a Tegu is not a cheap endeavor. And since the war in Ukraine, you can probably add at least 30% more to this price. We finally reached the conclusion of our series, and I hope you enjoyed it and it offered some insight and inspiration for all of you to start building your own big enclosures. It has been a long, arduous and sometimes even tedious journey, but everything is done now and I can sit back, relax, cuddle and enjoy my trip. I'm awaiting to see some builds of your own, and more projects will follow if you enjoyed this one. If you appreciate my work, like, subscribe, you know the drill. You might even consider becoming a member and helping me rehabilitate wild turtles and tortoises in Romania. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more in the future. Bye.